Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cultural Frequency. I'm your host, Derek Ball. Today, we're diving into the heartbeat of Houston real estate, a city that's constantly growing, shifting, and redefining itself. From the luxury high rises downtown to the revitalization projects in Third Ward, from the booming energy corridor to the expansion in places like Cypress and Katy, Houston's market is one of the most dynamic in the country. And when you talk about visionaries shaping that market, one name that stands out is Miss Ebony Royal. She is more than a realtor, she's a strategist, a deal maker, and a community builder. Today, we'll hear her story and gain some insight into how she has become one of Houston's top real estate masterminds. Let's welcome to the stage, Miss Ebony Royal.
Hello. Hey there. Thank you
Good
for
morning.
having me, Derek.
No problem. Glad to have you on the cultural frequency. So we could just go ahead and dive right in. So just get a little bit of background on it. But Ebony, Houston is a city of constant growth and opportunity. What first inspired you to plant your flag in real estate here?
Well, again, thank you so much for having me on the show today. And, that is a very loaded question because I didn't really pick to plant my feet here in Houston. I'm actually originally from New Orleans, and I came here to Houston via Hurricane Katrina. So, when I came here, I say all the time that I didn't go looking for real estate. Real estate found me. And so I was a business owner in New Orleans, and I basically had to start over here in Houston. And I had a cousin who was a loan officer here in Houston, and he encouraged me to go get my real estate license. That was in 2005. And I got my real estate license, and so my career in real estate began.
Okay, because I know when I first met you, you were dealing with Snap House photography. Um, I didn't even know if you were a realtor at that time. I just knew you as far as taking the realty shots, for agents, what have you, doing their showings, what have you. Tell us a little bit about Snap House.
Yes, yes. Thank you for asking. So Snap House is a real estate photography and videography franchise. And I like to say that it is a vertical integration into my real estate business. Um, Keeping in the real estate industry. And I co-own it with a business partner. His name is Bernard Lewis. And actually, we were the first in the United States to purchase this franchise, and it originated from Canada. So I love being a part of something new and exciting. So it was really, really exciting for me to be a part of something that was new to the United States and now to Houston. We actually own all of Houston territory. So we serve all the way up to Conroe, all the way south to Webster. And we provide listing videos, listing photography, a little bit of social media marketing. But yeah, really enjoy being a part of that.
Okay, so looking back, was there a moment in your early career when you realized you could truly thrive in such a competitive market?
That is a good question, Derek. So, to be quite honest with you, I've been licensed since 2005, but in between there, I had I went through the 2008 crash and I had an opportunity to go and work for a corporate company. So while I was at that corporate company, I did real estate part time. When I decided to jump back into real estate full time, I treated it as if I was at my corporate job. So I really didn't look at whether there was competition out there or not. I would wake up every morning, I would get dressed for work, I would go in my office, and I would work my business from 9 to 5 every single day. And from that, I experienced a lot of success my first full year back into real estate. So I really didn't look at the competition. I was really focused on making sure that I put in the work so that I could get some results.
Okay. Now, as both of us being we're realtors, we know that there's change, different trends, changing dynamics, what have you. And the Houston market has weathered booms, busts, everything in between. How did you establish yourself during these unpredictable cycles?
Relationships. So my business, I would say 95% of my business is referrals. I'm a people person. I am really big about connecting with people, making people feel heard, making them feel comfortable. And from that, I make sure that I provide elite service and make people feel like they have somebody in their corner. And from there, I just started to get more referrals and more referrals and more referrals. And that is the core of my business. I'm on social media. I do get some social media leads, but to be quite honest, my business thrives from the people that I've serviced. And so to answer your question, I just keep building relationships. I always say, like, I don't have a social media game. I have a ground game. So
Okay.
I work making sure that I stay in front of people. I make sure that I make people feel, like I said, heard and cared about. And then from there, my business grows.
Okay.
So it's definitely
And the
not,
thing is,
yeah, I definitely don't ride this whole, cycle thing, because what you put into something is what you're going to get out, regardless of the market.
I agree. And somebody asked me one time, and I think we discussed this in your last class, and I was telling some of the people in your class about answering this question this way. They say, "Where do you do real estate?" And you have people who say, "All over." And I say that's not necessarily true because you don't have geographic competency in every area. Like for example, my referrals go from anything down below Pearland. I'm pretty much referring it out to folks, whether it be Maryville, Sharon, what have you. Because I've been down there constantly, but I don't know the demographic down there. I don't live down there. I don't frequent that much. Whereas at Northeast, I can tell you all the ins and outs of it. So how do you feel about that question being asked or the way I answered it?
Yeah, no, I think that if we could go back to our training, right, and what we were taught in real estate school, that's exactly what our fiduciary responsibility is to our clients, is to be knowledgeable about the areas that we serve and the areas that they're looking to purchase in. However, I would say that also being resourceful and partnering with agents in the area is beneficial. So there's a referral that you can refer the client fully, right? And just say, hey, here's this person, take it over completely. And there is also a resource opportunity where you can pay somebody a smaller percentage to help support you with your client. Because for me, again, referrals are my business. And sometimes if you're referring out your business, then it now becomes that agent's client. And you no longer have really access to that client anymore. So what I started doing is I partner in a different way. I use them as a resource. I will pay them for their time, but ultimately it still remains my client.
Okay. And that's a pretty good segue in terms of me going into business strategy and your mastery. As you know, Houston doesn't have zoning laws. I mean, we pretty much have to deal with, if you're in Houston, you may have a HOA, whatever, but by and large, there are no zoning laws, which makes the market unlike any other city. How have you leveraged that freedom to your advantage in building deals?
That is a good question. It's interesting when I get people from that are relocating. So people that are relocating to Houston, some people just don't understand it, where you could have like $1 million home next to a crack house. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
some people, but I leverage it in a way based on what the client's needs are. Right. So if I understand, like, tell me a little bit about your lifestyle. What is it that you like? Are you a person that likes to walk your dog and go jogging in your neighborhood? Are you a person that is cool with hopping in a car and going where you're trying to get to? And based on the client's needs is where I make those recommendations. But I think the cool thing about leveraging Houston and their no zoning laws is the investors that come in to invest in our city.
And you mentioned out of town buyers, what have you. And as Houston becomes more attractive to out of state buyers, how do you balance serving local families while also appealing to new investors?
I love that Houston continues to be a resource to the local people by offering a lot of grant programs. That's really how I leverage it, because it is becoming very expensive in areas that are in the city limits. As we say, like in the loop, it's becoming very expensive in the loop. And a lot of families are becoming displaced. But at the same time, the city of Houston has done a really good job with coming up with, grant programs, down payment assistance. There are a lot of investors that are doing affordable housing in those areas. And so my role is to stay abreast of all the things that Houston has to offer in order to keep, those families in those areas.
Okay. Then we have areas like Eastern Downtown, affectionately known as Edo, and the Heights, and those areas have undergone dramatic transformations in recent years. At least since I've been here. I've been here since 2006. How do you spot an up and coming neighborhood before the crowd gets there?
Honestly, it's about showing up and those relationships with the people that are in the city of Houston, people that have been here all of their life, investors, showing up to events, and just keeping those relationships. Because to be honest, most of it is like ear to the ground, right? So it's somebody who's going to say, hey, there's a big project coming to Edo, right? So there's a big project coming to Edo. And that's pretty much how I stay abreast to what are the areas that we should be investing in. Also, I spend a lot of time reading my emails. Like, I do read emails. I read, like, right now. So for instance, Huffman, there are big developments that's happening in Huffman. Willis, there is a project that's coming to Willis, where they're building hospitals out there. So typically when you get abreast to those big, developments, commercial developments that's coming to those areas, then it's usually a sign that there's something coming, it's going to be growing.
So I've been told in the past by my past broker that I should have at least 500 out of state realtors in my quote unquote Rolodex. Do you have that type of relationship with out of town realtors? Do you have a pipeline of outside out of state realtors?
You know what? I think that's a good a good idea and a good resource. And I didn't have it until I recently joined this new brokerage. So I've recently joined a brokerage called Real Broker. Real is licensed in 52 states and Canada. And it was the first time that I have had the pleasure of meeting so many agents from all across the country. And my Rolodex is starting to build, but it wasn't something that I was intentional about, to be honest with you. Um, but it's been good to see different perspectives and different markets. We send each other a lot of ideas and share a lot with each other. And I really, really love the culture there.
Yeah, mine is not 500, but my main pipeline comes from DC, which is where I'm from. And
Okay.
a lot of people have I've gotten people call me um, want to move down here to Houston because I recruit people to come to Houston because it's a good retirement place. I always tell people, if you want to run a business or open a business, there's so much opportunity, because it's so vast. You can have, you can open, like I had a barbershop before. You can open a barbershop in a certain area and not even be affected, as long as you do home, not affected by anybody that's doing work on the southwest side of you in the northeast. But you just have to make sure you've done your due diligence to make sure you're not in competition with anything within like a 2 or 3 mile radius. But I've had people from California come through because I have a guy that I work out with. He has a net there. He's back and forth between California and Houston. So he's piped me into California, also have Georgia and North Carolina as well. But not maybe 10 with all those combined to increase that number.
I love that. I think that's a fantastic idea. So you recruit the agents to come to Houston and establish themselves.
No. I'm saying my pipeline in terms of having out of state agents where if they have clients coming that want to come to Houston, I'm their man. So they would call me and say, hey,
of course.
I have a
Yes.
coming from California looking for this, that, and the other. They sold their house, they paying cash, because their houses are so overpriced out there. That you could sell a 1,200 square foot house for $700,000.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm
So,
sorry, you were breaking up earlier, so I couldn't hear some of the things that you were saying.
is it
Like
good
you
now?
were, yes, you're kind of going in and out, but I can hear you now.
Okay. My next question. Many Houstonians worry about affordability as property values rise in areas like Midtown, the Heights. How do you see your work helping to keep communities accessible?
Yeah, kind of the same thing like what I said earlier. I think that the city of Houston is doing a really good job of providing help for families in some of those areas. Um, you know, the other great thing about Houston, which is why so many people, especially African Americans, people of color moving here, is because of the opportunity to do very well. So we have some, you know, a lot of professionals here, a lot of business owners. So people have money, minorities are doing very well here. And to me, the accessibility is pretty wide open. I see some of the communities, the new construction communities that they're building, price points of 500,000 and up are very diverse. And so I love the fact that Houston offers every industry. You have the medical field industry, of course you have, oil and gas. So you get a lot of engineers here, and then a lot of business owners. So opportunity abound here in Houston. And so I think that there's accessibility because there's a lot of people that have money.
Yeah, I agree. So one thing I noticed as far as since being in real estate, and I'm on my third, and I noticed that there are a lot of women in real estate. So, what advice would you give to young women, particularly women of color, who want to succeed in a city as large and competitive as Houston? What advice would you give them?
Oh gosh, that's something that's so near and dear to me. So I get a bit emotional when I think about that because as a single mother for a very, very long time, I I always aspire to have the ability to build a really amazing life for myself. And when I think about young women finding their way into real estate and being successful, I think just stay true to yourself at the same time, exude professionalism. I would say in this industry, because of social media, things have really went left and far away from being professional and branded in a way that is, I don't know, like, I'm trying to get, do my words in a way that's respectful. But
I get it. I get it.
yeah, so I would say to a young woman that's coming into real estate in order to be successful is stay true to yourself, but at the same time, have a level of respect for your field and your industry. Set yourself apart by serving your people first. Uh, we get into this industry, of course, for financial freedom, right? And so some of us also is just for flexibility. At the same time, if you serve the people, if you serve your customers, if you come from a good place, the money will flow.
Yes, indeed.
The
Yes.
money will flow. And I think so many people just lose sight of that. And so that's the one advice that I would say is like really keep your clients first, come from a good and caring place, and the money will flow for you.
Yeah, I always say, don't chase the paper, chase the vision.
Yeah,
The main thing is taking care of your people. The money it'll take care of itself.
it will.
But your heart has to be in the right place. My whole mission is to help families out, particularly those first time home buyers. It's like this is probably going to be the biggest purchase that they've ever made in their lives, and you want to make sure that it's not going to be totally stress free, but you want to make it as stress free as possible. Lower the stress levels.
And I'm telling you, it's like just seeing how some people are fighting so hard for home ownership. Like I've had clients, I mean, they're fighting to become a homeowner, paying off debt, thousands of dollars worth of debt, staying on the phone with businesses and the, student loan office just to try to make it work. They're fighting to become homeowners and they're putting up all this money, they're putting up risk, they are, putting in their lease renewals, and it's just they're fighting, and we should be fighting with them and have the best intentions and not just focused on the money, because so many people will do the wrong thing just so that they could get paid, and it'll come back to bite them.
Oh yeah, and I've heard just in the last week or so, just going in doing my legal class, my legal two, and just hearing some horror stories. People putting their licenses, on the line. Just doing not only unethical stuff, but illegal stuff. And I'm saying it's not worth it, man. You know,
It's
now,
not
that
worth.
that shows me that you're just in it to try to, make a dollar, as
Yeah,
opposed to building your business and trying to help these families out. Because I mean, we're needed, despite what people may think. We're needed. And
agree.
we have to show why we're needed. Bring that value to each and every transaction. Every transaction is different. Everybody's needs are different. Everything is on a case by case basis. There's no boilerplate way to deal with clients, where you can't just cookie cutter way to deal with clients. Everybody, you got to tailor to this particular situation.
Derek, you are so right, because I look back on some of the transactions that I've had with my clients, that if I was not involved in the transaction, they would not have a house. They would not have a house, because they don't know how to navigate some of the pitfalls that you find in a real estate transaction. I have this document, and it's called the 65 things that could go wrong in a real estate transaction.
Oh Lord.
And I share that with my clients sometimes, like, just to let them know that this is what I'm here for to help you avoid these things.
Okay. So let's look ahead towards the future. As we know, Houston is projecting massive growth, expansions in suburbs such as Richmond, infrastructure developments around the Grand Parkway. Also, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Generation Plaza, but Generation Plaza, Generation Park is up in the Northeast. They're talking about building an Eli Lilly plant up this way. And there's also going to be revitalization in historic communities. Where do you see the greatest opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, north. I mean, north, northeast, northwest. I think that when you look at the map, right? I mean, because south, yes, there's some opportunity, obviously, but I mean, there's water, right? You run right into water.
Yeah.
So the only way to go is to go north. Um, and so all across from the west to the east, I think that there's opportunity. Of course, I remember when Fulshire like had just started, with developing communities, and I drove it the other day, and I was like, oh my goodness. I remember when I first came out here, and it was like nothing. And now there's all these master plan communities. Like I said earlier, Willis, Huffman, because you got, the Grand Parkway of 99 now just going through all of those areas. So it's definitely easier to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, the recent HAR emails that show the fastest growing communities that come out, most of them are pretty far out. They're far from the city center. People want to get away from the city center.
And I noticed that, just like I said, I've been here for 19 years, and I've seen a 180-degree turn between when I first got here and now. I mean, I've seen basically 7 to 8 schools have been built. The extension of the Beltway, all these hotels being put up here, and a lot of stores. Period, that weren't
Where are
here.
you? Where are you?
Northeast.
Northeast.
Yeah. I have a Houston zip code, but I'm like right on Atascocita and Humble. Right on, and I've seen Summer Creek High School, Atascocita High School, Wood Creek Middle School, and the list goes on as far as all these schools being built. At the same time, they didn't account for the building that was going on around here either. So many of these schools opened up in trailers. The first day of school, they're in trailers because they didn't account for all of the development that was going on around them. My subdivision, Summerwood, at one time, I want to say it's around 2009 or 10, I went to a homeowners meeting, and they said at that time they had 500 more houses to build, and we phased out. So now
Yeah.
you have areas, the Groves nearby, Watershed, Balmoral, which has taken on a whole nother look because Balmoral had the man-made lagoon, which was its biggest attraction. But then
Yes.
they started putting rentals. They started putting rentals in there. So now, I'm not saying this as any kind of put down, but you're just having different types of individuals moving in. Where first you were having the highly professional folks, and then you having folks coming from that are not used to having houses, so to speak.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
now those people are worried about property values being brought down, and that's been a crazy situation over there. But it's a lot of building around
Yeah.
here, and they're going
Look,
to
that's a
continue.
whole nother. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm like, that's a whole nother podcast for us to talk about. Like, how can we start to change the mindset of some of these people that are, I mean, because again, I've been a renter before. You can still be a renter and
Mhm.
and care. You can still be
That's
a
true,
renter
because I figure I'm renting it because that's where I live. So
yes.
I have to take care of what I have, regardless if I own it or I'm renting. I got to take care of it. But not everybody has that mindset.
Not everybody has.
And you're right. That's a whole nother podcast because my business partner and I used to do Clubhouse, and we've done stuff on mindset and
Yes.
generational curses and all that type stuff.
Oh
You
man, yeah. I gotta come back. We gotta talk about that.
Yeah, and mindset. I mean, just outside the real estate realm, mindset in terms of finances, mindset in terms of having wills and protecting having estates, wills and estates, trusts, the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
'Cause I'm dealing with that right now personally. Having to deal with probate issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's tough. I mean, of course, you and I, we both have, I'm sure, service clients that were
yeah,
going through that,
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, but going back to the area where you live and the opportunity zones that are out there, like I bought a house 2 years ago in a new community in Crosby.
Okay.
Um, that's one of my investment properties out there. And I was the fifth house there, and the community is going to be over 1,000 homes.
Oh,
Yeah.
so
So
where's near 2100?
it is.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. It's near there. And there's 5 builders in the community.
Mm.
So that has, yeah, it's been amazing to see it grow. And thank goodness I have a good tenant. Let me knock on wood somewhere.
Yeah. That part right there.
Yes, yes.
That's the other side of I got investment property, blah blah blah, but I got some trash tenants.
Yes, but
I
that
hear
goes
those
back to
stories.
mindset, right? Getting people
Mhm.
understanding like their mindset.
I think with those situations, talking with them in a way where they feel like they're partners with you, as opposed to you just getting rent money from them.
Yes, yes, I
So
love.
yeah. So I have what's called a rapid fire round. You know,
Okay.
basically, it's just like random questions I ask you. For example, what's your favorite restaurant?
Hi, you gonna laugh at me? So right now it's Willie G. It's between Willie G's and Steak 48. Like I
Okay.
love Steak 48. I know like it's everybody goes there and it's not,
You
but
like what you
I love Steak 48 and I
like.
love Willie G's.
Okay. Are you I'm not now for me, I'm a hard copy book person and an audible person, but what book or books have you read within the last 30 days? Or are you reading currently?
Yeah, so right now I am reading the 12-week year.
Okay.
And I'm going through the practices of planning out my year in 12 weeks and breaking it down into actionable goals. And so this is like my third time reading that book.
Okay, the 12-week year.
The 12-week year. It's fantastic.
For some reason, I think you mentioned that at your last class. I think
Okay.
I think I have that written down, but I'm gonna write it down again just in case.
Yes.
12-week year. Okay. Favorite football team?
New Orleans Saints. Okay.
My heart bleeds for you.
my heart is bleeding too, but look, we gon' that's my team.
Favorite basketball team?
Favorite basketball team? I gotta go with the Pelicans.
Boy, you keep a bleeding heart. Man. Do you like watch movies, documentaries, anything like that?
I do.
What's your favorite movie? All right, what's your favorite movie all time, I should say?
Oh my gosh, Waiting to Exhale.
Okay, that's a new one.
My favorite movie of all time. I love Waiting to Exhale.
All right. So how can folks get a hold of you if they want your advice, they want you as a realtor? What are your social media platforms?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. My handle is eRoyalRealtor. And you can also access my beacons from there, which will give you links to schedule one-on-ones. I am Ebony Royal, the Realtor, on Facebook. And you can find me on LinkedIn at Ebony Royal. So
that's it.
That's it.
Okay. All right, Ebony, we want to thank you for joining us on the Cultural Frequency. You've given us an insider's view of Houston real estate, not just the properties, but the people, the neighborhoods, and the future of our city. Houston is a place where cultures meet, where neighborhoods evolve, and where the opportunities are waiting for those who can see them. Your journey reminds us that real estate isn't just about homes, it's about building legacies and communities. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Keep your eyes open. Houston is changing every day. As you heard tonight, people like Ebony Royal are helping lead the way. Thank you for joining the Cultural Frequency. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me, Derek.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.